My name is Pushkar, and I'm just going to give you a brief history of all the different kinds of data visualization tools that exist, what Tableau is, and then we'll deep dive into a little bit of how you can start working with Tableau, start creating some graphs, maybe create a couple of dashboards, right? So let's begin. So what are the few things that we're going to learn from today's session? We're going to understand what business intelligence is. We are going to look at what is data visualization, what are the aspects of data visualization. We're going to look at a few tools that exist, and then we're going to deep dive into what is Tableau. And then finally, we'll look at all the different offerings that the Tableau has to offer. Okay. Our runtime is about 50 to 55 minutes, and then we'll have some time set aside for some questions as well. So let's understand what is business intelligence. So business intelligence is essentially the link that joins our raw data and helps us generate business insights, right? So it could be a whole gamut of things where we look at, let's say if you look at a company like a Zomato or an Ola and Uber, and they work on logistics, right? So then they will come up with an answer. Where do I have more cabs prepared? What are the few hotspots at what times during the day? Are there hotspots at different locations? How do I link them together? Or if you are about to launch a new product, so we look at the market survey, we do some intelligence on it, we understand what kind of product is the market looking for, and then come up with a launch strategy, right? So the link that combines your data that we have and the action that we want to do is the entire gamut of business intelligence. Data visualization, it's a three-part process. It works with making sense of the data that we have, right? So a lot of the times the data that we get in the raw format is not usable. We are not able to make a lot of sense out of that data. So data visualization essentially combines three aspects, which is design, communication, and essentially information science, which means what is the sense out of that data that I can make so that I can make some business decision. And all of these things together is data visualization, right? So it could also be using dashboards or infographics or advertisements, right? All of this, which gives you some understanding of what the data is, what it does, and what you can make use out of, is called data visualization. Now, there are a bunch of data visualization tools available in the market. The first and foremost that everyone has probably used at some point of time is nothing but Excel and PowerPoint, right? So Excel used to be the original spreadsheet program where a lot of data would be combined together, and you would then maybe create graphs and charts and pivot tables out of it, and then use them into PowerPoints, right? So that was the first combination of a data visualization tool that we had. But as data started getting humongous and a lot of data started getting captured, it was difficult to hide that into Excel. So then we moved on to databases like SQL, NoSQL, Oracle, right? Hadoop. Now, all these tools are very specific in storing data. So we need some tools to work above these tools to create data visualization. And that's where the entire gamut that you see around Excel and PowerPoint has now come up. We've got the Tableaus and the Power BI, Google Data Studio, ArcGIS, Dundas, TIBCO, right? These are all the different tools that exist in the market today. Depending on what is the company's preference, what is the company's current trajectory, how do they store their data, they will pick one or the other tools to start working with to create their visualization requirements. Okay. What is Tableau? So Tableau is one such tool, and the USP of Tableau relies on the fact is it is a very easy to use interface. It provides the customer the ability to connect to multiple data sources, has the ability to refresh the data sources on their own. So you don't, you design and develop them once, and then Tableau is able to handle all the post-processing beyond that. Plus, it also has the way of creating some very cool visualizations without needing to know a lot of programming knowledge. And that is where Tableau's essential USP lies. there are a few versions of Tableau that are available. Essentially, we have the Tableau online and the Tableau server versions, which is what corporates use when they want to host their data. There is also a free version of Tableau called Tableau Public. This is typically used when you have public data sources and you're trying to use it for non-commercial purposes. Tableau Reader is a tool that is used to read whatever Tableau workbooks have been created. Okay. And that is, again, essentially you cannot develop anything in a Tableau Reader, but when a developer creates something in a Tableau workbook, then a reader, like a client, will be able to interact with the workbook, check out what things have been developed out there, and then navigate around the workbook. So those are the major offerings that Tableau provides. Now we have a question out here from Murli Krishna. What are the opportunities for Tableau developers? So Murli, there are quite a few opportunities that exist into the data analytics and the business analytics field, where a lot of these companies are creating dashboards. The simplest way to explain this is, if you have whichever self-service provider you have, whenever you go onto their app, it gives you a small insights about what your current usage is, what your billing is, when's your next billing cycle, right? All of this is nothing but a small dashboard which is specifically created for the user. Tableau also works in very similar ways. You can create one report and then probably include that into an app or into your website. And then you can also have user access control out there so that when a particular user joins in, only he or she can see the data that is there for that particular user. And that is where a lot of opportunities in development and designing exist with Tableau. Okay, so Ravi, essentially the ability to write custom SQL queries or complex SQL queries is the one thing that you need to know to become a Tableau developer. A lot of the data even today still exists on a lot of Oracle or MySQL or Microsoft SQL servers. So the ability to be able to use your ETL tools very effectively so that you can get the data in the correct format is what is important that you need to learn to get to start working with Tableau. Okay, with any data visualization tool, actually, for that matter, right? Be it Tableau, be it Power BI, Google Data Studio, whichever tool you want to use, you want to learn. The essential part still remains that the data underlying that particular layer has to be in the correct format so that you can make the best possible leverage of using the tool to do things on their own. And that still remains one of the major bottlenecks that happen even today when you're trying to develop a dashboard. The data is at a different level and you need to aggregate it or package it in a different level. So you need to know your ETL tools, you need to be able to write custom SQL queries effectively so that you can make the best possible use of Tableau. Right? Let's just quickly dive into Tableau so that we can see how things work out in Tableau. So this is what our Tableau welcome screen looks like. Okay. Now, depending on the version of Tableau that you have, a few of the options are present or absent depending on which version of Tableau you're working with. I currently have a paid version of Tableau, so let's just quickly go how we can connect to a particular data in here, and then we'll see how we can start creating some visuals. So Tableau has the ability to either connect to a file which is present on your machine. So you can either connect to an Excel file or a CSV file or maybe a SAS file, right? So any of the files that you have, you can connect to it directly. Or like I mentioned, you can connect to servers. So here you can see that there are a bunch of servers available. And you can then use Tableau to connect to any one of the server options out here. With every new version of Tableau, they keep on increasing the different kinds of connections that exist. So pick up any server connection that you want, put in your details, and you are now connected to that particular database. Along with that, Tableau has a communication pane. So with every time there is something new that happens, if there is a new update that's available, like you see on the bottom right of my screen, it says that there is a new update available. So you can connect to a new update and get that update, or you can probably go onto Tableau's website and see some of the videos that they've created. So Tableau provides a very comprehensive repository for the user and the developer to go through their website, to go through some of the videos that are there, and learn new things. I'm just going to quickly connect to a sample database. So let me quickly connect to a sample database called Superstore. Let me add it up. Now, any of you guys who work with SQL before, this is a very similar interface, right? So Tableau is known for creating its screens, whichever active screen that in multiple sections, so that you can focus on each section individually. In this case, you can see that there are 3 sections that we have. On the left hand side is the file or the data source that we've connected to. At the top is where you'll be writing your SQL queries, or you'll be visualizing your SQL queries out here. And at the bottom, just like your MySQL workbench or your SQL editor, you can see the few rows of the data that exists out here. So for example, let's say I've connected to the sample Superstore file. There are 3 different sheets in this particular file. So this is very similar to connecting to a database and having the multiple tables in the database. Now, whichever file you want to load, whichever table you want to load, all you need to do is just drag and drop it into the drag sheets here section, and Tableau will visualize this data. Right? So it's just a very simple tool to immediately just pop out whatever table you've loaded. It will just give you a quick view of what the data in this particular table looks like. If you look on the right of this middle section, just like your SQL, it shows the first 200 rows. In this case, Tableau shows us the first 1,000 rows. You put in a higher value out here, and Tableau will display the entire data table that you have. So in this case, I put in a higher value of 1,000,000 out here, and it truncated it to 9,994, which means there are about 10,000 rows of data that we have in this particular sheet, in this particular table. Now, someone asked me what kind of SQL things you need to know. So basic, simple SQL things like joins and stuff, you don't need to know that because Tableau has the ability to create joins on its own. So in this case, the people sheet that I have that has the managers for each of the stores in my data set. If I just drag it also into the drag sheets here console, Tableau will automatically create a join. And if I click on the join, Tableau will also tell me what kind of a join it is using and what are the columns it is using the join on. Okay. So in this case, the region column is common between both the sheets. So Tableau has created a join on the region column. And here you can then probably choose if you want to do a left join or a right join or an outer join, right? That's up to you. Right? So in this case, I'm going to leave it at an inner join. Now, Tableau shares a lot of its history with Excel. Okay, and that is where you will now notice that when I'm going through this entire module, you will notice that a few nomenclature would be very similar to Excel. For example, when you work with a Tableau file, it's called a Tableau workbook. So very similar to when you work with an Excel file, it's called an Excel workbook. Or in Excel, you have multiple sheets. So as well, if you look at the bottom left, you have multiple sheets. So every sheet that you have in here is a new pivot table or a new chart that you are going to create, a new visualization that you're going to create. Right? Excel also has columns and rows. So right here in the middle at the top, you have columns and rows. Right? So you'll find that a lot of your nomenclature is going to be very similar to what you have in Excel. I'm just going to quickly take a moment out here, and there are a few questions that are out here, so I'm just going to quickly answer them. So Satish is asking which of the skills are required to become a BI analyst. So Satish, the knowledge of a few tools, right? Tableau, Power BI, even Excel for that matter today, right? Knowledge of these tools along with a little bit of domain knowledge of the company that you're going to work with will come in really handy when you want to be an effective BI analyst. Deepak is asking a question. Is it possible to switch to a data analytics and a BI line without any programming knowledge, just by getting working knowledge of Tableau or Power BI? So you may be able to get into data analytics and BI line without programming experience. That's completely possible. But then you will be essentially restricting your, your probable companies to more like consulting companies, or more companies which are towards service oriented rather than more product oriented companies. So as long as you're okay with that, there should absolutely be no problem in transitioning into that particular role as well. But again, a little programming knowledge will actually help you a long way off, because as you grow in your career, you will be working with programmers. So you still need to be able to decode some of the things that they have done, or be able to provide some solutions to them. So a little bit of programming knowledge will actually go a long way for you. So SQL knowledge is not typically programming. SQL, I would consider SQL to be more of a ETL tool, which is extraction, transform, those kind of tools, right? Which is used to get your data in a certain order so that you can start visualizing them. So SQL with respect to Tableau is essentially a tool that is used to get the data in a particular order so that it's easy for us to visualize it. Okay, so don't consider SQL to be a very a very program-oriented tool as such. Arnab has a question. When it comes to data visualization, can we say that Tableau is the best tool? Do we need to explore other tools like Power BI, or Tableau is enough? So Arnab, I wouldn't want to get into the debate of which is the best tool, because depending on what the requirement of the company is, of the client that you're working with, and also the spending power of every company that is there, one or the other tool might work in the best possible way. But if you know one tool very well, in my experience, it is not that difficult to start working with another tool. With a little bit of tweaking around, a little bit of going through the videos, training videos of that particular tool, you will be able to pick it up. So know any one tool in and out, so that even if someone wakes you up in the middle of the night and asks you a question on it, you are able to answer them. But getting a hang of the other tools is really not going to be a difficult task if you know one tool really well. Suchitra, which tools in Python can be used to create cool dashboards like Tableau? So Suchitra, there are a few libraries in Python. Again, I'm not a Python programmer, but there are a few libraries in Python that will help you create. The only thing is you need a deep understanding of Python and a lot of programming to do that. Tableau, because it is it is a tool which requires minimal programming, so you don't have that kind of granular control, but doing things in Tableau is fairly easier. So there are a few libraries in Python that help you do that. Matplotlib is one of the easiest one to do that. I think recently there was another library that came up. The name eludes me right now, but there are some libraries that help you do that. Probably not at the same finesse level like a Tableau or a Power BI, but it will definitely help you get up there. Ganesh, what role does Tableau play in machine learning? So not much, because machine learning is an entirely algorithm-based system, which is, again, as the name suggests, you are training the machine algorithm to become more effective. Tableau is a tool to essentially, after you've done with the machine learning algorithm, whatever analytics that come out of it, Tableau will essentially be used to display that analytics to an audience which may not be that deep into the understanding of machine learning as a programmer would be, or a machine learning expert would be, right? So machine learning, because it requires a lot of math, requires a lot of training, a lot of algorithms to be done. Tableau does not have any connection with it whatsoever, but whatever answers you get out of that machine learning algorithms, after that test that you run, after that experiment that you do, you still need some way to explain that to the audience, to the client, and that is where Tableau will play a role. Speak to me 1000. No, the data does not only have to be in CSV or Excel format. Just like I explained out here, in the server option, you can have a bunch of servers that you can connect your data to. Right? So you can connect your data to any of the options. To answer Manish Kukreja's question, how much big file Tableau can handle? I have seen Tableau handle about 4 billion rows of data, and it could load that in about 10 minutes or so. So there's absolutely no limit in how big a file that Tableau can handle. But as the file sizes keep on increasing, the latency period, right, the time required for Tableau to process things will also keep on increasing. So it is typically mentioned that for a good database design or a good dashboard design, you need to ensure that you have minimal refresh times. And that's when you start adding more filters to the data so that you only get the required data into your visualization and not just plug in the every data available. And that's when I mentioned, right, you need tools like SQL where you write custom queries so that you can effectively get only the required data into Tableau. Knowing Python and Tableau is enough, or is Tableau alone enough? What is the best combination for Tableau? So Dinesh, that essentially depends on the role. If the role is to just be a Tableau developer, then only Tableau is enough. If you want to be into data sciences and engineering, where you're also developing the algorithms, then obviously you will need Python knowledge as well. All right. So I'll take the other questions a little later. Let's quickly dive into how to create some graphs and charts in Tableau. Okay. So the first thing you'll notice is Tableau essentially puts all my numerical data into measures and all my categorical data, all the data that is used to segregate my or split my data into dimensions. Whenever you want to create a graph, it's very simple. Just remember x-axis versus y-axis. So whatever you want to put on your x-axis goes to your columns. Whatever you want to put on your y-axis goes to rows. For example, out here, if I put categories into x-axis, which is my columns, I can see that it plots 3 columns, displays the individual categories that I have. If I want to see the sales of these categories, I drop it onto my y-axis, which is my rows, and you'll notice that Tableau will automatically aggregate it to the sum so that I get to see the sum of all the data that I have. Now, I can use this to go further and split my data. So let's say I have category. I also have my subcategory, so I can also add that. So now it will create a broad group for category first, and then within that group, it will split my data by subcategories. Now, whatever other things that you want to do in Tableau, for example, this data is in a bar chart format, but it's not very clearly represented. If I want to add a data label to it, just use this marks feature out here, right, to add things to data labels. For example, add sales to the label option here, and you'll see that the data label will appear on each of your bar graphs. Again, whenever I have a bar chart, it's best to represent it in a descending order. So on the menu item here, click on the descending sort, and your data will get into a descending sort. I also have a color option out here. So let me also add a few colors to this. So I'm going to drag my category to colors. So every category is a separate color out here. Or if I want to add a color by every subcategory, I can add a separate color to every subcategory as well. Right? So now you can make a lot of changes into your graphs and charts. And I could do all of this with just a few clicks. Whereas in tools like Python or R, I need to write a proper sequence of commands before I'm able to create a chart like this. Once my chart is done, I'm just going to quickly rename this one. I'm going to call this subcategory sales. And my data is now at the subcategory sales level. Let's quickly go to another one. Before that, let me set my workbook to US. So let me quickly make sure of that. So this is to the US. Perfect. Now Tableau also has a built-in maps feature where I have a geographical field out here called state. So let me just quickly double click on state. Now, Tableau initially is unable to locate my states, so I'm just going to fix it. I'm going to make sure that it refers to the correct location. So in this case, the moment I click on my maps and I look at the locations that are put up here, you will notice that my country is set to India, whereas my data is there for the US. And that's the reason Tableau is unable to match them on the map. So I'm going to quickly make this United States so that I can plot my data on a state level. Let's plot profits out here. So I'm going to drag my profit to color. So now I have a field map. Along with that field map, on the right-hand side, I can see the legend, the color legend that is currently being deployed out here. Let me just make this a little more interactive. So let me add the data label for state and also the data label for profit. Okay. So again, few clicks, I can now visualize my data at a state level for all the subcategories and categories that I have in here. So let me call this as state profits. So the new sheet. Now let's start with some time series data. So I have a date field out here. So let me add date to my columns. It automatically groups it at the year level. So I'm just going to make it at the month level so that I get monthly data out here. Let's plot sales and also let's plot profit. Okay, so let's enable the data labels so that I have sales and profit on a monthly level. So every new graph or chart that you create is essentially a new sheet in Tableau, right? And every new sheet is nothing but a humongous pivot table. Now you notice that the default aggregator out here is sales and profit, is sum, correct? You can change the default aggregator by navigating to the individual field that is plotted out here, in this case, sum sales. In the drop-down arrow, go into the measure option and select the other aggregator that you want to choose out here. So you can choose an aggregator out here. So now this is my average sales and my average profit, right? So you can work your way around it as well. I'm just going to make it back to sum because I want to get all of this together into a dashboard, which I'm going to make it more interactive. All right, so I already have this here. Let's see what else we can do. What we can probably do is let's have another chart out here. Let's say my cities. So I'm going to put my cities in my rows. So every city is listed out here. And I'm going to list the profit. So every city will have either a positive or a negative profit. I'm going to add my profit to color. And I'm going to enable the data labels. Okay. Let me just quickly sort this as well. So there you go. So I have one of the cities with the highest profit is New York City at $62,000. The city with the lowest profit is Philadelphia at negative $13,000. Now, Tableau also provides me with the ability to use this chart that I just created, which is my city profit chart. Tableau gives me the ability to embed this particular chart into another chart. So I'm going to quickly do that. So in my state profits chart, in my tooltip, I'm going to add or embed this particular chart. So I'm going to go into insert option and insert the city profit chart here. So let's just quickly see what happens now. So now when I go to California, you'll notice that a city list is generated, which displays the list of cities. In this case, in a ascending order, the first city shows the highest losses, followed by the other cities that you have. Now this list is right now updated for California. You go to New York, my list gets updated for New York. I go to Pennsylvania, my list gets updated for Pennsylvania. So now within the same sheet, or within the same graph, I can embed another graph and get more insights out of the same data set and make my things a little more interactive for me. Okay. All right. Along with this, Tableau also provides you with a ready reckoner of some charts that you can create in Tableau. For example, here we have a ready reckoner of about 24 charts that you can create in Tableau. Right now, you will see that all of them are grayed out, but you navigate to any one of them and it will tell you what is the minimum requirement to create a chart like this. For example, if I go to a pie chart, it says that the minimum requirement is one or more dimensions or one or two measures, correct? So let's say I choose a dimension and I choose an appropriate measure. You will now notice that a few graphs in my show me menu have now been activated. Right? Now this essentially is Tableau's way of telling you that this combination of dimensions and measures that you've chosen, using this combination, you can create a chart like this. And now if I click on the pie chart, it'll automatically create a pie chart for me. I'm just going to improve the size of the pie chart. So I'm going to make it entire view so that it shows up right in the middle and it expands the pie chart to a default value. Sort my data, add the appropriate data labels out here. So in this case, my category label and my profit label. Now Tableau is also one of the tools where some simple calculations that you have are automatically inbuilt into Tableau. For example, whenever I have a pie chart like this, I want to see the data not as the absolute numbers out here, but as percentage of the pie chart. Right? So in this case, I know that this is more than 50%, but I don't exactly know what is the quantum of this. So I'm going to go into the data label, which is displayed out here. And there's an option which says quick table calculation. In quick table calculation, there are some commonly used calculations available. In this case, percentage of total. So I'm going to quickly add this as a percentage of total. So without having to write any formulae, without having to write a single line of code, just by using my mouse and a few clicks, I can create a pie chart and create the required metric for this particular pie chart. So I'm going to call this as profit contribution. Okay. Now, all of these are great charts on their own, but I still don't have a way to make them interact with each other. And that's where the dashboard feature in Tableau comes into play. So onto the dashboard feature, you can now add multiple sheets that we've created so that you can make them interact with each other. So for example, I've got a blank canvas here. I'm going to start adding my sheets. So my first sheet gets added. I'm going to add my state profits below it. My monthly sales contribution to the right of it. And my profit contribution to the bottom right. I'm going to improve this. So I'm going to keep this to an automatic size so that it occupies the entire screen that I have. Now again, even here, if I click on any one chart, I don't see a lot of changes happening, correct? Because though I have placed them onto a dashboard, they are still not interacting with each other. And this is where you click on any one sheet and there is a funnel icon out here. When you click on it, you are now instructing Tableau to say that this particular subcategory sales chart is going to act like a filter chart for the other three charts. So that now when I click on any one category out here, so in this case, if I click on chairs, you'll notice that the entire data across everywhere has changed. Or I can, using the multiple select button of control or command, if you're using a Mac machine, you can select 2 different categories and you will get the split of those 3 categories across all the other 3 charts that you have. Now, similarly, you can work this across multiple charts as well. So for example, let's say I'm going to make my state profits also as a filter. So now what this does is, if I select California, my data will update for California everywhere. Or if I select 2 different states, my data is represented for 2 different states out here. So using actions, which is what we've done right now, right? We've added filter actions to these 2 charts. I am ensuring that the other charts on my graph automatically get updated based on whatever is filtered from these charts. Okay, I'm going to quickly take a few questions here now. So there's a question from Prateek Shukla which says that apart from R, Tableau, SPSS, Excel, is there any other tool to learn for getting job as a data analyst as a fresher? So Prateek, if you know these particular tools very effectively, I think you are set up for getting a job as a data analyst. But again, if you know Python, because Python is coming up very effectively these days now, I think Python has become a basic requirement for a few companies as well. So it might just add up to your appeal it might add to an appeal to your resume. Avnish is asking a question which says, what are the programming language we need to know or have knowledge to excel in data science field? Also, how is Python useful in working with data science project for beginners? Okay, so the main programming language that you need to understand, at least today, is Python, right? Python is a very versatile language. And the reason why it has been lauded a lot is because A, it's open source. So, a lot of people have been able to contribute to this to the development of Python. And for using large data sets, Python provides you a bunch of tools, a bunch of libraries that you can implement so that you can work with large data sets, clean the data, set up processes in there, set up loops in there so that you can create multiple fields and make sense out of your data. And that's one of the reasons why Python is an absolute requirement for the data science field. Along with that, how is Python useful? Again, like I mentioned, right? With a bunch of data, with a bunch of unclean data, there are tools in Python, there are libraries in Python that help you clean the data. Then you can use machine learning algorithms to train your model to give you a particular efficiency. And that is how you can start using Python for your data science needs. Hari Krishna is asking how to install Tableau. So Hari, just go to the Tableau website. There is a 15-day or a 14-day trial available for Tableau desktop. You can use that to understand this, or you can use Tableau public to work around your way in Tableau as well. Deepak, we will be sharing the Tableau workbook at the end of it, and if you install Tableau from the Tableau website, the sample data set that I'm using right now is available when you have that installed, when you have that particular installed version on your laptop. Okay. Satish is asking, is certification from Tableau a must to get a job? I wouldn't say it's a must, but it's a good to have, because if you're certified by Tableau, essentially what a company would do is, if you say you're a Tableau expert or if you're a Tableau developer, they will give you a couple of questions to solve, maybe a case study to solve. If you have a Tableau certification, then they know that you've already gone through that process. So that is one less interview process that you have to go through, one less step that you need to go through before you get a job. So Komal, to answer your question, I can again drop profit into label, and now I can see both. So this sum profit delta one that you see, that is the percentage formula in there. The sum profit is the actual value that you see in there. So you can now have both of them displayed out here. Rakesh, again, I don't like to get into the debate of which one is better, Power BI or Tableau. Whichever your company uses, that's the better one. In terms of learning, you should start with Tableau because it's a fairly easy tool to understand. And like I was explaining it to someone better, once you know any one of the tools, it's very easy to catch up on the other tools. Okay, which one is used by a bigger corporate? Again, that entirely depends on what is the requirement of the corporate and what is their spending capacity. So Tableau as a tool, it's an expensive tool. A developer license for Tableau, the one that I'm currently using, costs about 75. It's about 50,000 rupees in a year that you just spend on a developer license. When you want to publish your workbooks, you need to have a server license as well, which is an additional cost that the company needs to bear. So depending on how your user base is, what is your spending capacity, and how your data is stored, you can pick up any one of the tools, either Power BI or Tableau. Right. There was someone who asked me how you can create parameters in Tableau. So I'm going to quickly show you a small demo of how you can do some basic analytics in Tableau, right? Something very, very rudimentary, but something that can eventually help you out a lot. So I have my data at multiple levels. So for example, I have subcategories and I have my data at multiple years. Okay, so I have data worth 4 years worth of data for the 17 subcategories that I have. If I just plot my profit into text, let me just make this view a little better for you guys. Just increase the font size. There, that should be a little better. There you go. So what I'm displaying is the profit for the different subcategories that I have in the different years. Now, typically our brain, the human brain, is more used to looking data in a pictorial format, right? We don't like to see data in numbers or in text. We understand it better when it is in a very pictorial format. So I'm just going to replace all this data that we see out here in more of a pictorial format. So what I'm going to write is, I'm going to write a simple formula. I'm going to create a calculated field. I'm going to call this profit tag. And I'm going to write a simple formula which says, if some profit, so the total profit that I see out here is greater than, let me pick up a value of, let's say, 10,000. This is greater than 10,000. Then, very good. Else if some profit is greater than 0, then good. If it's not either of these cases, then bad. So essentially, I'm converting. If you can see this values out here, I'm just converting essentially for chairs. I don't want to see the value of 6,995. I just want to see the value as good. Or for phones, I want to see the value as very good instead of 11,880. So I'm just going to quickly create this. And instead of displaying the sum profit as a value out here, I'm going to display profit tag as a value. So here what I've created is, I've used the available data and created a custom level on or a custom output for myself. Let me also again quickly increase this particular size So just give me a moment. There you go. But I'm going to go a little further than this. I'm also going to drop this profit tag into color. And I'm going to assign proper colors to it. So very good is green. Good is, let's say, slightly greenish, and bad is red. So now again, the same data that I have, but I've created some buckets in my data so that I can display my my dashboard effectively. I can also go a little further. Maybe instead of still displaying this in text, let's see if we can display this as icons. So I'm going to convert my chart into a shape chart, drop my profit tag into shape so that every shape gets a separate icon. And I'm going to choose the icons called as KPI. So very good is a green tick, good is a yellow triangle, and bad is a red cross. So now I'm just displaying my data instead of also displaying them as numerical values or as text values. I can use icons to display what I actually want to show. And I'm just going to quickly fix my legend as well. So very good comes first, then comes good, then comes bad. So now I can display my data at an individual level. Let's say I only want to see my data for one state at a time. So I'm going to drop my state into filters. Let's say I'm going to select California right now. So this is my data for California. If I enable the filters, I can now see my entire list of filters out here. Let's choose Alabama. Or maybe if I want to just choose one single value at a time, let's say now choose New York City. So New York, right? So now I can now also filter my data based on the data source that I had. So I can now use multiple levels in the same sheet to display different levels of data that I have in my data set. I'm going to quickly take two questions out here that have been popped up here. Aditya is asking the question, what is the scope of data visualization as a career? So Aditya, to be very honest, you will probably start your career as a data visualization analyst or a business analyst, where data visualization may be an important part of it. But eventually, as you grow, you'll have to choose two options. Either you would want to go more technical, which is when you'll adopt data sciences and move into a proper development role, or you'll choose the engagement process route and you'll become an engagement manager so that you are in charge of, let's say, an account or a particular client, and you'll be again into a pure consulting mode. So you may start your career as a data visualization expert or an analyst, but eventually your career will morph into these two modes that exist. Pratima, can we detect COVID-19 through Tableau? I'm assuming you're talking about charting the COVID-19 scenario across the world. So I think if you go on to Tableau Public, there are a few people who've already done that. You know, they've published their workbooks. You can download them and you can view them how they've done it. There are also data sources published out there, so you can connect to those data sources as well. And you can, you can then look forward to how you can want to convert those data sources into your own Tableau workbooks and create your visualization. So you can look for inspiration online, and you can try to replicate those workbooks there as well. Okay. So again, all part of visual analytics to help you determine which category, which subcategory is performing in the best optimum level. Now, along with this, Tableau also helps you create something called as a storyboard. So storyboard is nothing but, imagine up until now you've been using Tableau as an Excel tool. So you've been creating multiple pivot charts, multiple pivot tables, and assigning data in the correct format. But a storyboard is essentially when you want to do the presentation to your client or when you want to do a presentation to an audience. Now, storyboards has a few plus points. For example, I created this one dashboard. Now, let's say there are a few regions that are important and significant to my company. So I'm going to focus on only those regions. So the first region I'm going to focus on is, let's say, California. So here, I want to ensure that only the data for California is selected. Now, I'm going to write my analysis for California here. Now, I don't want to create a new dashboard to do an analysis for a different state. So I'm going to use the same dashboard again. This time, I'm going to select the state of New York. So now you'll notice that my second story point or my second slide out here, New York is selected. In my first story point, California is selected. Right? So in a story, whatever selections you make, they are restricted only for that story. They don't even reflect back onto the dashboard. So my dashboard, you'll still notice that 3 states, California, Montana, and New York are selected. But on my story, only the states that I want to focus on for this particular analysis is mentioned out here. Okay. Also, a story allows me to write some analysis that I want to write. For example, let's say I want to talk about technology out here. So I can write specific reasons for specific data points. So for example, here I can say the technology sales was higher because there was Christmas sales. Or if I want to highlight a few data points out here, I can highlight them and write an annotation only for those particular data points. Okay? So that's how you can create a story in Tableau. Again, we've just done a very small analysis. We've looked at the sales data for a company and we've tried to highlight it on an individual state level. Okay? I'm going to quickly take a question out here. So Avnish Kumar, there are some data which is being collected by the Johns Hopkins Center, which is collecting COVID data. It is picking up the data from all the government sources across the world. I am not really sure if WHO is also collating it, but again, I'm not really sure of that. But I'm aware that Johns Hopkins is doing that. It is collating the data on a daily basis. They maintain a Google data sheet, which is updated on a daily basis. So you don't have to update it on a daily basis. The data automatically gets updated out there. And then you can just connect it to that particular Google Sheet file and start creating your own workbook. But yeah, I think that is one of the sources that I'm aware of. If you still want to do it on your own, you will have to list down all the government sources that are there on any of these websites, and then you'll have to query each of them individually to get the data. So if you only want to do it for India, you can get it from the ICMR website, which is again periodically collating this data and releasing it out to the public. There are a lot of NGOs also doing this. So a simple Google search will help you do that. All right, guys. So that is what we had for a small introduction to Tableau. Whenever you want to create your own profile, and in this case, let's say you've created your Tableau workbook and you want to publish it to the server, just quickly go to Tableau Public, and you can save it to your Tableau Public server. So if you just log into your Tableau Public credentials, this is a free account that you can get one. You can quickly go on there and publish your workbook. Whenever you publish your workbook, it will then be available for any individual. It will be available for any individual to view. Okay, so it's like Twitter or Facebook. Whenever you put something out there, anyone who can search it, he will be able to go and check it out. Suraj, to send a dashboard automatically by email, you need to have a Tableau server license, where on the server, you can set up a schedule. Let's say that on every Monday morning, whatever dashboard I have published, create a PDF of that dashboard and send it to me on my email. So you can create a schedule like this on the server and then the server will ensure that whatever time you set up it there on that particular time, it will send you an update. All right, guys, if there are any other questions, please post them faster. We've got about 5 minutes, so I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. The presentation and the Tableau workbook will be put up on the GL website, and you guys will be able to download this. All right, guys, thank you so much.